The rain hammered against the windows of the small-town library in rural Pennsylvania. But inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged paper and unspoken secrets. I slammed the door behind me, my heart pounding not from the storm outside, but from the one raging in my chest. I had just walked in on my fiancé Mark, tangled in the sheets with my best friend Sarah in our own apartment. As I stood there dripping wet, my eyes blurred with tears, a soft voice cut through the chaos. "Looks like you could use a quiet corner and a hot cup of tea." That voice belonged to Margaret, the librarian who'd been a fixture in this place for decades. At 55, she had the kind of presence that commanded respect without effort, silver threads weaving through her dark hair, glasses perched on the bridge of her nose, and a smile that hid depths I couldn't yet fathom. I nodded numbly, following her to a secluded alcove stacked with forgotten classics. She handed me a steaming mug, her fingers brushing mine just long enough to send an inexplicable shiver down my spine. "Emily, right? You've been coming here since you were a kid. What's got you looking like the world's caved in?" I collapsed into the chair, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. Mark's betrayal, Sarah's smug grin as she pulled the covers up, the ring on my finger suddenly feeling like a shackle. Margaret listened without interruption, her blue eyes steady, absorbing every syllable like she was cataloging a rare book. But as I spoke, something shifted inside me, a flicker of doubt that had nothing to do with Mark. Why had I said yes to his proposal in the first place? The engagement party, my parents beaming with pride. The church wedding they'd always dreamed of for their only daughter. It all felt scripted, like a role I'd been rehearsing since childhood. "Betrayal stings deepest when it's from those we trust," Margaret said softly, her hand resting lightly on the table between us. "But sometimes the worst lies are the ones we tell ourselves." Her words hung in the air, probing at the edges of my carefully constructed life. I was 28, a teacher at the local high school, the girl who'd always done what was expected. Good grades, steady job, nice guy. But in that moment, with Margaret's gaze holding mine, I felt exposed, as if she could see the questions I'd buried deep. The ones about why Sarah's laughter always made my stomach flip, or why Mark's kisses left me cold. As the afternoon wore on, the storm subsided, but my turmoil didn't. Margaret shared stories from her own life, veiled in generalities. A marriage that ended quietly, a daughter who moved away, the solace she found in books that explored forbidden loves and hidden identities. "Society has its rules," she murmured, "but the heart doesn't always follow them." I left the library that day with a stack of novels she'd recommended, tales of women defying conventions, and a nagging ache in my chest. Back home, I confronted Mark, his apologies falling flat, his excuses reeking of desperation. "It was a mistake, Em. Sarah means nothing." But as I twisted the ring off my finger, I realized the mistake was mine, for pretending this life was what I wanted. That night, alone in the apartment that now felt like a prison, I dove into one of Margaret's books. The protagonist, a woman torn between duty and desire, mirrored my own confusion. Why did Margaret's touch linger in my mind? Was it just gratitude or something more terrifying? I pushed the thought away, focusing on the immediate fallout, calling my parents, hearing my mother's gasp of shock, my father's stern advice to work it out. They were pillars of the community, church elders who believed in forgiveness and family above all. Admitting the engagement was over would shatter their illusions, and mine. The next morning I returned to the library, drawn by an invisible thread. Margaret was shelving books in the history section, her movements graceful, almost poetic. "Back so soon?" she teased, but her eyes searched mine with concern. We talked for hours, the conversation weaving from literature to life. She confessed her own regrets. Marrying young to please her conservative family, suppressing parts of herself that didn't fit the mold. "I spent years hiding," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "Don't make the same mistake." Her vulnerability cracked something open in me. For the first time, I voiced the fear gnawing at my soul. What if I'm not who I thought I was? What if I don't want what they want for me? Margaret didn't flinch. Instead, she reached out, her hand covering mine, warm and steady. "Then you owe it to yourself to find out." In that touch, a spark ignited, forbidden, exhilarating, terrifying. As I left, my mind raced with possibilities I'd never dared consider. But doubt crept in. Was this just rebound emotions? Or the unraveling of a lie I'd lived too long? Over the following weeks, our encounters became ritual. I'd slip into the library after school, finding excuses to linger. Margaret introduced me to poetry that spoke of women's loves in coded language, histories of movements that fought for visibility. Each conversation peeled back layers of my denial. Yet the guilt weighed heavy. My parents noticed my distraction, pressing for details about Mark. "He's a good man, Emily. Don't throw it away over one slip." Their words echoed the societal script. Marry, settle, conform. But inside a storm brewed, conflicting desires clashing like thunder. One evening, as closing time approached, Margaret locked the doors and led me to her office, a cozy nook filled with personal mementos. "I have something to show you," she said, pulling out an old photo album. Pictures of her younger self, arm in arm with a woman whose smile mirrored Margaret's. Her name was Clara. We were everything to each other, until fear tore us apart. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I chose safety over truth, and I've regretted it every day. Hearing her story, my own barriers crumbled. Tears streamed down my face as I admitted the truth I'd suppressed. Attractions to women in college dismissed as phases, the emptiness in my relationships with men. "I'm scared," I whispered. "What if this destroys everything?" Margaret pulled me into a gentle hug, her embrace a lifeline. "It might," she replied honestly, "but living a lie destroys more." That night, walking home under the stars, elation warred with dread. For the first time I felt seen, understood. But the cost loomed. Alienating my family, facing whispers in our tight-knit town. Was authenticity worth the pain? The question haunted my dreams, setting the stage for choices that would redefine us both. The days blurred into a haze of stolen moments and mounting tension. I found myself inventing reasons to visit the library, research for lesson plans, recommendations for students, anything to be near Margaret. Her presence had become a drug, pulling me from the numbness of my breakup. But each encounter deepened the chasm inside me. The thrill of her laughter contrasting sharply with the shame that twisted my gut when I thought of my parents. One afternoon, as we sat in the alcove, our knees brushing under the table, Margaret leaned in closer. "Emily, what's holding you back?" Her question pierced like a blade. I hesitated, my mind flashing to family dinners, my mother's hopeful eyes on my bare ring finger, my father's lectures on tradition. "Everything," I admitted. "My family. They're good people, but they see the world in black and white. If I tell them about us, it'll break them." "Us," Margaret echoed, her voice soft but laced with hope. The word hung between us, charged with possibility. I nodded, my heart hammering. In that instant I leaned forward, our lips meeting in a tentative kiss that sent shockwaves through my body. It was gentle, exploratory, awakening parts of me I'd long ignored. But as we pulled apart, reality crashed in. "What are we doing?" I whispered, panic rising. Margaret's eyes held mine, steady amid my storm. "Figuring out who we are." The kiss lingered in my thoughts like a forbidden secret, fueling both ecstasy and torment. At home, I paced the empty apartment, replaying the moment. How could something feel so right yet so wrong? Society's voices echoed in my head. The church sermons on natural love, the subtle judgments in our conservative town. Mark had texted apologies, begging for reconciliation, but his words felt hollow now. Sarah, too, had reached out, her messages dripping with false remorse. "It was a one-time thing, Em. Don't let it ruin us." But their betrayal paled against my own self-deception. Confronting my parents became inevitable. Over Sunday dinner, the air thick with pot roast and unspoken questions, I broached the subject. "Mark and I are done for good." My mother gasped, fork clattering. "Why?" "He adores you." My father frowned, his voice stern. "Marriage isn't easy, Emily. You fight for it." I swallowed hard, the truth clawing at my throat. But I chickened out, mumbling excuses about incompatibility. Their relief was palpable, but it only amplified my guilt. Lying to them felt like poison, slowly eroding my soul. Margaret sensed my turmoil during our next meeting. "You can't keep this bottled up," she urged, her hand squeezing mine. We talked late into the evening, the library empty save for us. She shared more of her past. The pain of divorcing her husband after realizing her attractions, the estrangement from her daughter who couldn't understand. I lost so much, she said, voice trembling. But I gained myself. Her story mirrored my fears, yet inspired a flicker of resolve. That night we shared another kiss, deeper this time, but I pulled away, haunted by visions of disapproval. The conflict escalated when rumors began swirling. A colleague at school mentioned seeing me at the library too often. Whispers in the staff room. Emily's acting strange since the breakup. Paranoia set in. Was I that obvious? One evening, Mark confronted me at my door. Eyes red from drink. Sarah told me you've been seeing someone. Is it true? His accusation stung, but denial rose automatically. It's none of your business. He laughed bitterly. You're throwing away your life, Em. For what? His words echoed my inner doubts, amplifying the war within. Was I ready to upend everything for this? Margaret deserved honesty, but fear paralyzed me. I avoided the library for days, burying myself in work, but the emptiness gnawed. Finally, desperation drove me back. Margaret was waiting, hurt etched in her features. I thought you'd ghosted me, she said quietly. Tears welled as I confessed my cowardice. I'm terrified of losing my family, my job, my place here. She pulled me close. Love isn't without risk, Emily. But hiding kills the spirit. Our connection deepened, conversations turning raw. Margaret challenged my ingrained beliefs. Society's norms are chains. Break them or they'll break you. But each step forward brought backlash. My mother called, voice laced with worry. People are talking, honey. Spending all that time with that older woman. It's odd. Her implication hit like a slap, forcing me to defend what I barely understood myself. The turning point came at a town event, the annual fair where everyone gathered. Mark was there with Sarah, their arms linked defiantly. Seeing them ignited rage but also clarity. As Margaret arrived, volunteering at a booth, our eyes met across the crowd. In that moment I crossed to her, ignoring stares. I can't pretend anymore, I whispered. We slipped away to a quiet spot, where I poured out my soul. The love blooming despite the odds, the readiness to face consequences. But joy was short-lived. That night, my father showed up unannounced. We need to talk. His face was thunderous, having heard gossip. What's going on with you and that librarian? It's unnatural, Emily. Think of your future. His words unleashed a torrent, years of suppressed anger. The pressure to conform. This is who I am, Dad. I shouted, tears streaming. He left in silence, the door slam echoing my shattered heart. Alone I questioned everything. Had I chosen destruction over peace? Margaret's support was a balm, but the wound festered. The price of truth was steep, and I wondered if I could pay it. The fallout from my confrontation with my father rippled through my life like a stone shattering glass. He didn't speak to me for weeks, his silence a weapon sharper than words. My mother called daily, her voice a mix of pleas and prayers. Come back to church, Emily. Let God guide you. Each conversation chipped away at my resolve, planting seeds of doubt. Was this love worth fracturing my family? Margaret's reassurances helped, but the inner battle raged fiercer than ever. Our relationship evolved in secrecy, stolen lunches in hidden parks, late-night calls where we bared our souls. I've waited a lifetime for someone like you, Margaret confessed one evening, her voice husky with emotion. But her words only heightened my guilt. At 55, she'd already paid dearly for her truth. Lost friends, judgmental stares. Was I dragging her back into pain? I chose this, she insisted, but I saw the shadows in her eyes, the fear of history repeating. Work became a minefield. Whispers in the hallways grew louder. Emily's changed. Hanging with that old dyke. The word stung. A slur hurled casually. A parent complained to the principal about my lifestyle influencing students. We expect role models, he warned during a tense meeting. I defended myself vehemently, but inside panic swirled. Losing my job would mean losing independence, forcing reliance on a family that might disown me. Margaret faced her own demons. Her daughter, Lisa, visited unexpectedly from New York. Over coffee in Margaret's apartment, I hid in the bedroom, heart pounding as I overheard their argument. Mom, people are talking. At your age? It's embarrassing. Lisa's voice dripped disdain. Margaret's response was firm. This is my life, not yours. But after Lisa left, Margaret broke down in my arms. I thought I'd shielded her from my regrets, but I've just passed them on. Her vulnerability cracked my heart, making me question if our love was selfish. The mouthwandao duk weighed heaviest. Was pursuing this defying God's will, as my parents claimed? Nights were tormented by dreams of judgment, church pews filled with accusing eyes, Mark and Sarah smirking from the altar. I'd wake sweating, reaching for Margaret's voice on the phone. Faith and love aren't mutually exclusive, she'd say, but doubt lingered. Society's condemnation felt omnipresent. News stories of discrimination, friends drifting away with excuses. A pivotal betrayal came from an unexpected source. Sarah, seeking redemption or revenge, cornered me at a grocery store. I know about you and the librarian. Mark's furious. Her eyes gleamed with malice. If you don't back off, I'll make sure everyone knows. Blackmail? The audacity fueled my anger, but fear gripped tighter. That night, I confessed to Margaret, expecting solidarity. Instead, she pulled away slightly. Maybe we should slow down. I don't want to cost you everything. Her words felt like abandonment, igniting a firestorm within. You're giving up? After everything? We argued fiercely, voices rising in her office. I'm protecting you, she shot back. I've lived this hell, ostracism, loneliness. You're young. You can still choose normalcy. The implication devastated me. Did she see me as a phase? Tears blurred my vision as I stormed out, the door slamming behind me. Isolation descended. I avoided everyone, burying myself in books that now mocked my turmoil. Inner monologues spiraled. You've ruined it all for a fantasy. Go back, apologize, conform. But memories of Margaret's touch rebelled. This is real. Denying it is death. The oscillation drove me to the edge. Reconciliation attempts failed. Calling my parents, I hinted at my truth. There's someone else. A woman. Silence, then my mother's sob. How could you? We've raised you better. My father's voice boomed. You're no daughter of mine until you repent. The disownment cut deep, a wound that bled regret. Desperate, I sought Margaret, finding her at the library's back entrance. I can't lose you, I pleaded. She embraced me, but tension lingered. We have to fight, Emily. But the cost. We decided to face it together, but cracks showed. The climax built at a family intervention. My parents ambushed me with a pastor, urging therapy to fix me. This is a choice, the pastor intoned. Rage erupted. Love isn't a choice, hiding is. I fled, heart shattered, questioning every decision. In the aftermath, Margaret and I clung tighter, but scars deepened. The price of our love. Fractured bonds, eroded trust. Was it worth it? The question echoed endlessly, pushing us toward irreversible choices. The fractures in my world widened into chasms, swallowing any semblance of peace. My parents' rejection wasn't just words, it was action. They stopped answering calls, changed locks on the family home. Until you come to your senses, my mother's final message read. The abandonment hollowed me out, leaving a void filled with self-recrimination. Had I sacrificed blood ties for a love that might not endure? Margaret's arms offered solace, but even there, doubt festered like an infection. Our relationship strained under external pressures. Anonymous notes appeared at the library. Sinners burn. Margaret shrugged them off publicly, but privately she trembled. I've seen this before, she whispered, recounting past harassments after her divorce. Her strength inspired yet terrified me. At school, the principal issued a warning. Personal life affects professional. Tone it down. Subtle discrimination, denied promotions, sidelong glances, eroded my confidence. Why fight a losing battle? My inner voice taunted. Conform, survive. A devastating blow came from Margaret's daughter. Lisa returned armed with ultimatums. Choose her or me. Their confrontation unfolded in Margaret's living room. Me listening from the hall. You're throwing away your legacy for this. Fling. Lisa accused. Margaret's defense was passionate. This is love, not a phase. But Lisa's parting shot lingered. You're pathetic, Mom. At your age. Margaret collapsed after sobs racking her frame. She's right. What am I doing? Her words unleashed my insecurities. Do you regret us? I demanded, voice breaking. The argument escalated, old wounds reopening. Sometimes I wonder if I'm stealing your youth, she admitted. You could have a normal life, marriage, kids. Fury blinded me. Normal? That's the cage I escaped. We hurled accusations, each barb drawing blood. I left in tears, slamming the door on what felt like our end. Alone, the inner turmoil peaked. Pacing my apartment, I dissected every choice. Mark's stability versus Margaret's passion. Family's approval versus personal truth. You've betrayed them all, the voice accused. Selfish, deviant. But counterarguments rose. Denial betrayed you first. This is liberation. The dichotomy tore at my sanity, sleep evading me. Reaching out to old friends backfired. One, a church acquaintance, lectured. Pray for guidance, Emily. This path leads to ruin. Another distanced herself. I support you, but my kids. Isolation deepened. Society's judgment a constant echo. Margaret's call came days later, voice raw. I can't let fear win again. We met in a neutral cafe, eyes red from crying. I love you, she declared. But we must decide, fight or fold. The conversation laid bare our souls. Fears of loss, dreams of acceptance. We chose to fight, but with caveats. Discretion until strength built. The decision invited more trials. Mark, fueled by resentment, spread rumors online outing us to the community. The backlash was swift. Library patrons boycotted. School parents petitioned for my removal. Protect our children, they claimed. Facing the school board, I defended. My private life doesn't affect my teaching. But inside, humiliation burned. Margaret stood by me, but her job teetered too. A moral crossroads arrived when my father suffered a minor heart attack. Rushing to the hospital, I faced their coldness. Your choices stress him, my mother blamed. Guilt crushed me. Was I the cause? In the waiting room, I pondered surrender, ending it with Margaret to mend family. But her text arrived. Don't sacrifice us for their approval. You're worth more. The hospital vigil forced introspection. Watching my father's frail form, I realized. His love was conditional, mine unconditional. I won't hide anymore, I told them later. Their response. Then leave. The final severance devastated. Tears flowing endlessly. Margaret and I leaned on each other, but the toll mounted. Her health faltered. Stress-induced migraines, sleepless nights. Is this the price? She murmured. My answer. For freedom, yes. But conviction wavered. The ultimate test loomed. A public confrontation at a town meeting, where bigots rallied against immoral influences. We attended, hands clasped defiantly. Voices rose. Think of the children, my rebuttal. Love isn't a threat, hate is. The room divided. Allies emerging unexpectedly. Exhausted, we returned home, bodies and spirits battered. The fight had forged us, but at what cost? Questions plagued. Right or wrong? The answer eluded, setting the stage for awakening. The town meeting's echoes reverberated through our lives, a catalyst for irreversible change. Allies surfaced. Colleagues who defended me at school, patrons who rallied for Margaret at the library. But enemies doubled down. Vandalism on her car, threatening calls to my phone. Each incident chipped at our armor, forcing us to question endurance. How much more can we take? Margaret whispered one night, her head on my shoulder. My response was fierce. As much as it takes. But inwardly, exhaustion warred with determination. The deepest wound came from within our circle. Sarah, twisted by jealousy or remorse, escalated her sabotage. She leaked private emails to my parents, twisting innocent words into scandal. My mother's call was hysterical. How could you write such things? It's depraved. The betrayal stung twofold. Sarah's malice, my family's revulsion. They'll never understand, I sobbed to Margaret. Her comfort was bittersweet. Understanding isn't guaranteed, but self-acceptance is. Moral quandaries intensified. Attending a support group for LGBTQ individuals, I heard stories mirroring ours. Families torn, lives rebuilt. One woman's tale of reconciliation inspired hope. Another's of permanent loss fueled despair. Is forcing acceptance ethical? I pondered. Or is walking away the kinder choice? Margaret grappled similarly. I've hurt Lisa irreparably. Was coming out worth her pain? A climactic confrontation unfolded at Margaret's home. Lisa arrived unannounced, fury blazing. You're destroying everything, she accused, eyes on me. Margaret stood firm. No, I'm claiming my truth. The argument peeled layers. Lisa's hidden resentments from childhood neglect, Margaret's apologies for past silences. I interjected. Love doesn't diminish yours. Lisa's tears broke the dam. I just want my mom back. In that raw exchange, seeds of understanding sprouted, but healing would take time. My own family rift culminated in a desperate plea. I wrote a letter pouring out my journey. Suppressions, awakenings, the love that redefined me. This isn't a choice, it's who I am. Days later, my father responded via email. We need time. Not acceptance, but a crack in the wall. Hope flickered, tempered by realism. Society's pressures peaked when the school board voted on my position. Standing before them, heart pounding, I spoke. Judge my work, not my love. Margaret waited outside, her presence an anchor. The verdict? Probation, but retained. Victory tasted hollow amid the glares. Our bond, tested by fire, emerged stronger yet scarred. We moved in together, a quiet defiance. But reflections haunted. The friends lost, families strained, selves transformed. Did we choose right? I asked Margaret one evening, staring at the ceiling. Right is subjective, she replied. But we're free. Awakening dawned gradually. Through therapy, I unpacked traumas, internalized homophobia, familial expectations. Margaret confronted her regrets, mending ties with Lisa tentatively. Community shifted subtly. More whispers faded, acceptance grew in pockets. Yet, the journey's toll lingered. Lost innocence, hardened resolve. In quiet moments I wondered, was the pain necessary for growth? Society's evolution lagged, but our story contributed to change. As we sat on the porch, hands entwined, watching the sunset, peace settled uneasily. We'd paid dearly, betrayals endured, sacrifices made. But in each other's eyes we found worth. Was denying one's true self ever the moral choice? Or does authenticity always demand its pound of flesh?